Alright, today I don't have a lot of time that I can spend on this, although I have to get it done. So I am going to be working on programmatically constructing a Blender scene using CSVs. So the basic setup is I have my stellar cluster. It's evolving. I want each star to correspond to one piece of geometry, then move the animation. So I'm working on figuring out how best to do this, and so I'm going to work on that here. Today I'm going to be listening to Master Boot Record. First up is the album Hardwares, which I think is their newest one, and then after that I'm going to play let's see, what should I do after that one? I guess maybe I'll just play C:\defrag. No, after that one, let's do personal computer. So let's go ahead and add that to the queue. All right. Okay, so shall we get to it? All right, so I got my Blender scene. Now, where we got to last time, you recall I had gotten to geometry nodes, and I had set up a script. What my script did, and it's increasingly misnamed. It took vertices, and then it changed the attributes to tie into it took the attributes and then it made those into, why am I struggling to say any of this? It took the attributes that I loaded in a CSV file using the CSV import, and then it assigned those to each one. Now the way that my CSV import is currently set up, and let's take a look at this. The way it's currently set up is each item inside my geometry has vertices, one for every row, and then it has attributes associated with that. Now this is not necessarily precisely how I want to do this, so we got to figure out how to animate this. I see a couple different ways that we could. One of them, which might be the simplest conceptually, would be to take each attribute, take each vertex, so each row, and just add on tons and tons and tons of attributes for them. I don't really like that. I would prefer to have one CSV that animated each one. So I guess I kind of have to figure out how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by modifying my orbit experiments. I'm going to disable preview. Go back here to dashboard. Okay. I'm going to check how, so if we look at each one of these outputs, this is from my individual orbit. What we're going to do, oh, you know what? I'm surprised. Why did this didn't seem to have any problems with GitHub, did it? Oh, I'm not signed in to sync. All right, this one should though, because the weird desktop session thing is where it all comes from. So here, this is export to CSV. This is the standard one. What I actually want to end up doing here is we're going to make two different functions. App.command definition export to CSV. And we'll call this one export orbits to CSV. And we'll modify this with our inputs, our length units, all that stuff. And then here, object ID annotated string typer dot option help equals Which object to export? Defaults to all. Equals -1. Nice. String, we want that to be an integer. Definition export orbits to CSV. There's probably a way to make this accept that, but I already did that, didn't I? Put a colon there. Okay, so this should say CSV, not HTF5. So here we've got our output prefix, sims equals rebound, simulation archive, input file. Okay, so we load it in just like we normally would. Now what we're going to end up doing here is we are going to end up coming up with multiple different sets, or actually we might as well just use data frames here. Oh, I'm not importing pandas. I guess I could. Import pandas as PD. Okay. We're going to come up with multiple different lists here for each of the individual object IDs. So objects equals, let's make that a dictionary where we do colon yeah, this is a little gross. So I guess what I'll do is if object ID equals -1, you know what? Let's just make this export orbits to CSV to export all orbits to individual CSV files. There we go. So object ID, let's get rid of that. And then down here, object data is equal to okay, so now for every single simulation, we are going to, for j in range sim.n, we're going to append it. So object data j, we'll do sims 0. So we will assume that it's always the exact same size. If it's not, it'll crash, and I guess that'll be it. Now we deserialize our data right here. So do this for every single 1, m equals masses. Why am I getting... No, it gets used. So XYZ convert to units. Okay. Now we append this to each one. I could do another enumerate of the XYZs, but I'm not going to do that. So now we've got object data JX append. Why is this giving me issues? Literal X cannot be assigned to parameter key of type int in function get item. What? That's not the case. Look at this. Colon. Oops. Right, of course. There we go. Oh, it's so good to see you, Ethan. Oh, well, I mean, see you as it were. So good, in fact, I'm going to put the Twitch chat over here so that I won't miss a single message. Delighted you could make it. I've been using these streams to really help me focus. I've heard that it's a good technique to body double, and this is a really effective way, for me at least, to body double. So let's add mass here. Let's see, SimT, this is in days. I'll just assume that days are what we want. I can convert this a little bit later. This should now be fixed. This should be double underscore. There we go. All right, so now we've got all of our simulation data exported here. So what we got to do, pd.dataframe from object data j. So for j in sorted object data. Oh, I'd love to watch you code as well, or work, or whatever it is. We'll do a temporary data frame here. Now, you know what? Actually, we don't even need to do that. To CSV, and I'll do F output prefix, and then let's see, J colon 0 for D will allow up to 10,000. Is that 10,000? No, that's only 1,000. Yeah, we'll do 1,000. So this should give us enough that we can do it. Let's take a look. Ooh, look at that. All the AUs are in there. We don't want that, do we? Okay. So it's regarding these as objects, I think, and that's not what we want. Let's just get rid of this. We'll assume that we know that they're all in AU. Nope, no convert to units. Right. I'm confused why it wants to do that, but whatever. All right, times AU. All right, there we go. So now we've got them all in AU. We've got our index right there. That's not what we want, though. We want to, but fortunately, or is it fortunately? Um, pd.dataframe.toCSV. How do I get it not to output the row? Index equals true. I think I want index equals false. So here, there we go. No index, just the time. I think I want the time to be in years, but um, it's actually already in days. So we'll do it in years. $100 years, 200 years. Okay. It's doing it again. So there we go. All right. So now what I have is I have my, oh, and I got to change the, I'm going to, we'll call that orbit. And let's add one more digit in case I ever want to go up to 10,000. So, all right. So now I've got all my orbits, all that stuff. I'm now running a star cluster, export orbits to CSV. And I've got my orbits here. And each one has a time, an X, Y, and a Z. Now, in theory, what I want to end up doing is I can probably make the assumption that all of these are at the same time. So I will eventually make that assumption, but we will not quite do it just yet. So now we go back to Blender. We've got all of our individual orbits. So let's try. Fine, allow it. I'm pretty sure that what? This is supposed to do it. If I do my desktop session and I force it to be XFCE. Anyway, I don't really need Copilot right now. Okay, back to what I was doing. The way we are probably going to do this, and I don't necessarily like this all that much, but we're going to have a go at it. We're going to have a new collection. That new collection, I wonder if I can apply, well, maybe I can. We'll see in just a minute if I can make this just have one set of geometry nodes. But I suppose I can probably do that by making a, okay. Teaching myself this stuff in public really does help me think through things. And I am definitely learning all this. All right, down here you can see we've got our stuff. Here, can I do a... I thought for sure that it would let me programmatically use my CSV importer. All right. This is the extension. It looks like maybe the CSV doesn't have API support. You'd think that it would, but oh, you know what? I think it probably does. And this is the API support right there. So let's have a shot at that. So let's give a shot at this. Is this my script? From CSV importer, import .csv, import load CSV, home, mturk, dxl, orbit experiments, orbit 00025.csv. All right, name equals object 25. Let's have a go at that. All right, let's try my console, import CSV importer .csv, help CSV importer .csv .load CSV. It just takes the path. So this other one accepts a name. Oh, but looks like it'll prefix it with something nice. So this should do it. And there we go, CSV orbit 00025. Well, that's marvelous. Let's go back to my geometry nodes. Okay, now we will design our geometry node here that will take, we want this to take our current index attribute. Really what we want is we want to modify which vertex gets rendered. So all right, well, let's give a shot at this. We'll set the ID for my geometry. Now, actually, what I'm going to do here is I've got my script from before. And we're going to need something new. Since we want this to be all animated, what we're going to do is we're going to load this up. We're going to use my oh no, please do. I have been so Ethan just asked, any objections to me advertising the stream on socials? Absolutely not. I have been completely disconnected from social media for coming up on 2 months, and I would be absolutely fine with advertising this on social media. Be sure to advertise that it's not necessarily the most interesting, though. So here we've got points from vertices. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do this named vertex X, Y, Z. Let's open up our text editor. We're going to execute this. Now we've got points from vertices. So what this does is it sets our named attribute, combine XYZ set position for our geometry, mesh to points. We actually don't need to do mesh to points here. In fact, what we want to do is we want to do a single vertex to a point. So we've got our geometry, and instead of doing a mesh to points, we've got our named attribute, combine set position. We are going to maybe actually we do. We only want to set one. We only want to do one index. So let's instead do a point, count one, position. We're going to write out our set ID. Instance on. Oh, this is confusing. So what I want to do is I've got this geometry. I want to change which vertex gets selected inside my individual rendering. So I've got my named attribute. I'm setting my X, Y, and Z. But I need to change which vertex actually gets added to the point. So let's try each type of data in the geometry. No. Split to instances from the elements in the same group. That might do it. It feels more complicated than I need. Mesh to points. See, this all feels far more complicated than I need, when really all I need to do is I need to select one vertex. Maybe that's what needs to go into this. So points from vertices. Instead, let's go back to geometry nodes for CSV orbit. We'll add a group input. Let's add a group output. Okay. So that doesn't do anything. But that's because it has all points at 0. So if I turn off the cube, maybe I'll be able to see. Nope, I won't. So let's select which point we want to collect. Sample index. Yeah, I think point. No, that's not it. We don't want to retrieve values. We want to turn off everything other than the one that we're using. So anybody that's just joining, what I'm attempting to do, yeah, that'd be wonderful. What I'm doing is I've got a simulation, and it's not that great yet. I need to improve it, of a star cluster. And I'm using the Blender scripting interface geometry nodes, which is a fork of node tree script, to create this visual programming interface here, where what I want to do is I want to take my individual orbits and animate them. The idea behind this is to ultimately get to the point where I am able to run a simulation of these based on like the number of stars, the central massive black hole mass, and then automatically import that into Blender and animate it. And I'm Matt. I'm at the University of Illinois. Today we are in the middle single digits in temperature, so I am blanketed up in my loft and working on this animation. Right now, this is for a project that I'm doing in my role as the director of the Advanced Visualization Lab, but I work at the School of Information Sciences. And so I'm teaching myself how to do all this stuff in the interest of running a more effective simulation of stars orbiting the central black hole in our galaxy for visualization purposes. So where was I? Oh yeah, over here in Blender. What I want to do is I want to choose instances from the instance input. Instance index. Let's try this. Let's try inputting a constant integer. No, let's try inputting an integer from my group input. All right, so now I've got points from vertices with that. And it's rendering a UV sphere. Okay. All right, now let's go back here to geometry nodes. Let's do this, geometry, add in a group, points from vertices, 3 named attributes come out, but so do instances. Now, here's the weird thing about this that I just remembered. These are all scaled in AU. Let's put them into, that's an astronomical unit. We actually probably want length unit equals light year, because that'll be in like the range of 10 to 20 and that kind of stuff. So otherwise we end up, there we go. Okay, so let's head this. That did not work. What? See, it did it here, but it did not here. Oh, of course, because I'm actually, you know what? Let's move all this stuff in here. So we'll create a new array every single time. That's not ideal, but it's not so bad. And then we will convert it to the appropriate units. And then here, we're going to get rid of all of our sample arrays. Oh, you know what? Let's put this here. So this is all about unit conversion. We want to make sure that we're doing it all in the right units. Let's do this. Run it again. And what it was doing was it was tracking internally the units, but they were the wrong ones. So I am going to get rid of this, and then we'll go back to scripting, reload our CSV file. We've got our CSV file back. All right, now let's take a look at this. Create some new geometry nodes, add a group input. And so we will now, points from vertices right there. Instance index. Let's go ahead and input constant integer. Okay. Still nothing. So let's take a look at our spreadsheet view to debug this a little bit. It is outputting 100 instances, but each one is not, it's 101 instances. Each one's not really doing anything. So let's take a look. Realize geometry is not used when pick instances is true. Oh, well, that's fun. Let's go back here, take a look at this. Points from vertices. Realize geometry is not used when pick instances is true. I wonder why that's the case. All right, so if I do this, this should, yeah. All right, so here what I have is I have for every single one, and it's not changing anything, I have a sphere that's rendered for every point on its orbit around us. So instead, let's see if we can pick an instance here. Let's see if I make this a little bit smaller. How's that look? If I make it like that big, there we go. We can see it's on absolutely straight orbit directly in. Great. I didn't initialize any of these stars with any masses or anything like that, so it just has them falling directly in. Oops. Oh, my camera is frozen. What? Yeah, it is frozen. All right, let's see. How do I, if I do that? Nope, that didn't change it. What if I do that? Okay, that seems to have fixed it. I don't know why that didn't do it though, or why that froze. It's weird. Sometimes the camera gets a little bit messed up. We got to figure out how to get the right instance rendered. If we can do that, now the thing about all of this is that I'm trying to figure this out, and part of where I run into issues is that I'm not used to things always being expressed the way that they're expressed inside Blender. Um, and so I'm looking for particular languages or terminology or terms of art that are just not the way that they get used. So I wonder if mesh to points, position offset, selection, um, I wonder if I can actually just set the ID. So let's go back to geometry nodes 1. Now let's add that's retrieving a value, but we don't want that. We want to be able to select a specific index. So here, utilities, index switch, no. That's choosing between values. We want to filter out. This is deleting geometry. That might be the one we want. Where did I just have that? Separate geometry. Maybe this will do it. Now if I select an index, no, why would I think that would work? Let's try this. Okay, that doesn't do it, it's just true or false. Alright, I'm going to use my old friend Google here. Geometry nodes, select single vertex. Separate XYZ. Oh, Wow, this is way more complicated than I thought. All right. So it looks like what we want to do, um, and I will put the URL in here in just a minute, is we want to have our integer, and then inside our, that goes into our selection. So we have a utility math, I guess I'll just do math. All right, let's do functions comparison. Compare. We will do value of that, and now we will select. We'll have it that goes into that, and now we will read in our index. So what we're doing now is, in theory, at least I think in theory, what we're doing, and this should probably go into here. So we feed that into here, and this goes in there. So now what we have, and I like this actually, we have our index for our integer, because this can then change. This is our index for our object. So each vertex inside this has, oh hey Dylan, a fire ecologist at Texas Tech, nice to meet you. Well, yeah, I'm doing fun coding work. Yeah, it is pretty fun. So now what we have is oh, there we go. Okay, this is great. So what I've done is I've separated my geometry out. So I've loaded in my CSV orbit. So I'll load one in for each of the orbits that I want to do for this stellar cluster. Then the integer value here, which I will tie to my animation frame, will set my position. This is wonderful. This is exactly what I was hoping for. So let me make sure that my points from vertices here looks exactly like it did. Yep, it looks exactly the same. So let's go back to my geometry nodes. Points from vertices. Yep. Oh, that's the wrong one. Geometry nodes 1. So here, let's create a new geometry node, and we will change the name of this. Spheres at vertices. Spheres at vertex attributes. Okay. So now let's come up with another one. This will be select vertex by index. And this is going to take a geometry and an index. Oh, wow, look at that. All right. Now, let's make this look exactly like this. So we've got our ns read index, gs.read, no, index. we go. There's our index. We need an integer which comes from our index. So we've got that right there. Now we need a math compare. So let's see if I can remember how to do this. I've got math operations in one of my other ones. This is a vector math, but we're going to modify that to be just regular math. GS math operation equals gs.math operation compare. Yeah, there we go. Value equals index. Oh, it has two named value? That's going to be tricky. That's not going to work, but it should give us some information. Why is it doing the exact same thing? Okay, let's do return comparison. It's going to tell me now. It doesn't always have the most helpful of error messages, but let's give it a shot. Reload from disk, rerun. Node math does not have an index value 2. Agree to disagree. Okay, that one actually worked. Let's see, select vertex by index. That, perfect. Okay, compare, claim. Okay, so now let's go back here. Points from vertices, my geometry nodes 0, 0, 1. So we've got our comparison. So now let's separate our geometry out. Line too long. Okay. gs.separate geometry. Geometry equals geometry. Selection equals comparison. Right? Dot value. I think it's okay not to say dot value. I think that's assumed. So now I got that. Now we need to do our points from vertices. You know what? I'll just output a geometry here. All right, so let's see. Select geometry. So if I reload this, select vertex by index, that looks like it works. All right, so now the true test. No, I don't want to quit. I just want to create a new one. Don't save. So let's go to scripting. Import CSV loader.csv. CSV loader.csv.load CSV. It's a lot of repetition there. Home mturk dxl orbit experiments out orbit 00025.csv. So this is our first one. If I run this, no module named CSV loader. Importer? Yeah, importer. There we go. We've got our CSV orbit. Now let's head on back to our geometry nodes. Add some geometry nodes here. Open up our text editor. Run this. And now I should be able to take a group, select vertex by index. All right. And now add another group, which is spheres at vertex attributes. Check that out. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now let's see. This is wonderful. So now I should be able to, given all this, I ought to be able to load in all the orbits from it. But I'm going to need to figure out how to automate that as well. So, scripting. Let's come up with a new one. Let me first So now let's create a new one. This one is going to be one that we run inside Blender. So load orbits.py. This is designed to be run inside Blender. CSV importer.csv.load CSV. Import glob. Glob.glob. Let's see. We want this to be data Kepler exoplanets. Oh, I've never had that before. We'll call this orbit path. Glob.glob. For fn in sorted fn's. Okay, so now this should load every single one in. We're going to have to come up with the animation in just a minute, but there we go. We now have all of them. The next thing we need to do is, I guess what I want to do is I want to figure out the animation. So, so let's go here. We'll do a new general. We're going to go back to just having one. Delete that. Scripting open. Load orbits. So we've just got one. Oh yeah, because I put the -1 on the inside instead of the outside. It's unsorted, and so it just grabs 0, 4. All right, so now I've got that. Let's figure out how do we animate this. We'll come up with a new node here. We will add our two inputs group input. Oh, nope. Add. Oh, I need to run my script. So let's go here, text editor. Okay. Let's add. Oh, I'm just noticing. Check this out. Copy selected nodes as script. Man, I wish I knew about that. Okay. Add a group. Select vertex by index. Add a group. Spheres at vertex attributes. Okay. Yep. All right. Now let's figure out how to animate this. Now, the way we want to do this is probably a little bit different than the way that I would initially expect to be able to. So I want to animate this and have it tween in between them. That may or may not be possible. So I'm going to need to average two different values. Like I'm going to have to come up with a full-on linear interpolation here. That might be easier to do inside Python rather than in Blender, but I guess we'll see. Wow. Here we go. Get 100 frames right there. Okay, so now we've got scene time. Select vertex by. So here's that vertex. I think it's time to add one final one. Animated orbit. We don't need an index. No, that is not what we want. I'm going to try doing this. Scene time equals gs.sceneTime. Don't need the group input. Here I can actually just use this function. Select vertex by index. Geometry equals geometry. Index equals sceneTime.frame. Okay. Okay. Now let's go back here. Rerun this. Select vertex by index is not defined. Oh, because it's executing it before it gets all the way through. Okay. Let's try this. Okay. Animated orbit. I actually want this. Let's see. I'm going to go back and do this all again to make sure that I've got the full reproducible pipeline. Go to geometry nodes, scripting first, open, load orbits, run it. Okay, so now we've got all of them. Geometry nodes, text editor, open up my grid creator, run it. All right. animated orbit. Okay, let's get rid of my cube. Awesome. So now, should I be able to... Okay, so now each one of these is not set to it yet. Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe, let's see, can I do a new collection? And then inside that collection, make all of them... Can I modify this one? All right, so it looks like this is where we're going to have to go back to our scripting. So let's figure out, how do we take a script all right, let's give a shot at this. I am going to delete all of these. We are going to manually import CSV importer.csv, CSV importer.csv load CSV, and we're going to use this to get our object. And then let's see, how do we modify that individual object? Home, Turk, DXL, Orbit Explorer, Orbit. No, not found. What? Experiments. Explorer is my, what's it called? So, Explorer is the web interface that I came up with. All right. So now what do we want to do? We want to be able to programmatically modify this. So according to let's see, object.modifiers. All right. Oops, can't use IPython syntax. Okay, so let's give it a new name. Actually, hold on. Modifiers. What can I do on that? Let's take a look at the object modifiers. Add a new modifier, new name for the modifier and the new type. So that creates a new one, but we don't necessarily want to create a new one, right? Or do we? Here, let's see. Here we've got our... Oh, crumbs. How do I do this? Let's go back to geometry nodes. There we go. Okay. Modifiers. So we do an add modifier, geometry nodes. Okay, and then inside that, okay, object modifiers add name equals geometry nodes, type equals nodes. So one thing that I've always had a struggle with is how do we know which things are like magic words and whatnot that we utilize, and how do we know which ones are not? It's new, not add. So now we've got our nodes. All right. Now that's the thing. Once again, I think I'm getting really stuck on this. We want this to be a geometry group, right? I am getting really stuck on this notion that each one of these is an individual object that I can't modify globally. And I don't buy that. So I've gotten rid of the extra modifier. Now I want to be able to modify this particular set of them. So here, this is nodes dot node group. No. Oh, did I just crash Blender by asking for a directory, or by calling dir on the node group? All right, I did. Let's go back over here, node group. All right. Fortunately, I'm doing everything in the script, so it's not super hard to come back up with it. Get rid of my cube. Sir, there's a phone call for you. Is it about my cube? Okay, let's run this. Now let's go back over here to geometry nodes. Open up my text editor. Grid creator. Run it. So now let's see if we can programmatically add a modifier and set what the top node of our node tree is. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so here, what am I calling my node tree? Oh, animation, I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's go back here to geometry nodes. Select vertex by index. Animated orbit is what I want to call it. So here, we're going to call this, and I'll go back over to my main script. Object is equal to that. Object dot modifiers dot new geometry nodes, okay, modifier.node group equals bpi, and I don't know if I actually need to import bpi or not, but I will go ahead and do it. Data.node groups. I don't know how it knew animated orbit was the right thing. Okay, let's reload this from disk and run it. bpi prop object collection object is not callable. Ha! Okay. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alright, so now I just need to figure out how to get my objects to scale based on something. This is really working for me. So I'm quite pleased with this. Where I've gotten to now is I've got the load set up, got my modifier node group. If I can come up with a way to change like a named attribute or something on the scene, that would be great. Let's see, data, custom properties. Property name, sphere size. Let's drop the sphere size way down. So now I should be able to take inside spheres at vertex attributes. Let's see if I can get a custom scene data. Nope. Collection info. I wonder if I can get that. Input constant collection info. No. No. Uh, so here we've got all that data. Custom properties. No. Alright, so this might take more effort than, or might take a little bit more than I was expecting, but it's still got to be possible somewhere. Maybe what I need to do is I need to have some other geometry that this gets connected to. Maybe I could access the parent or something like that. No. But there's got to be a way to do this, and I am starting to feel very comfortable with making these changes inside Blender. So I've got my animation. Everything is totally scripted. try this. I'm going to try from scratch. See if I can get everything in here. Yeah, all right. It's not gonna work. I guess maybe I will figure something else out here. Probably there's a way to get it to be like a function or something that I load. So I am going to adjourn for just now, but I have to say this was an unexpectedly productive day. Managed to get my orbits all loaded in, and they're not really orbits, but let's see what else is different. Nothing. Managed to get everything loaded in the way I wanted. I can make things run, and I seem to be able to have everything totally scripted, so I can do it as need be right from the command line. So thank you for joining me. This was very fun. Yeah. All right. Have a good one, folks.